Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, and today I'll be reading an Arlecchino listener by me. So let's get into it. As a harbinger, Arlecchino calculated every move, and every action was deliberate. Yet, in those moments when you were alone with her, when the world was stripped away, she was simply your Arlecchino, a woman who, despite her sharp edges, held a depth of affection for you that she rarely displayed to others. Tonight was one of those rare evenings where she allowed herself to be vulnerable, to let the mask of the harbinger slip away as she embraced you. You were wrapped in her arms, the faint scent of roses and steel clinging to her clothes, a testament to the duality of her existence. You pressed closer to her, seeking comfort in her presence. Her fingers traced gentle patterns across your back, her touch a silent promise of safety. But even in this moment of peace, you couldn't shake the events of the day from your mind. Your injuries, though minor, were still fresh, a constant reminder of the danger you had faced. "Are you sure you're alright?" Arlecchino's voice was low, a hint of concern lacing her usually composed tone. You nodded, though your heart was not entirely convinced. "It's nothing I can't handle, just a few scrapes." Her grip tightened ever so slightly, a subtle indication of her displeasure. "Scrapes that should not have been there in the first place." You tilted your head to meet her gaze, and you could see that her eyes were filled with emotions, anger, worry, and something even deeper that she rarely let surface. "You know it was not your fault, Arlecchino. You can't always be there to protect me." Her lips pressed into a thin line, and you could see the turmoil in her eyes. It was one of the few things that could make her feel powerless, the idea that she could not always shield you from harm. "If I had known—" "Don't," you interrupted gently, placing a hand on her cheek. "Don't blame yourself for something out of your control." But she was Arlecchino, the woman who controlled her world with an iron will, and the idea of not being in control was something that grated against her very nature. "They hurt you," she whispered, her voice barely audible, but the edge of fury in her words was unmistakable. You sighed softly, knowing there was little you could say to soothe her anger. "It's over now. I'm here, with you, and that's all that matters." Arlecchino's eyes darkened, a dangerous glint forming in their depths. "No," she murmured, her tone laced with a quiet intensity that sent a shiver down your spine. "It's not over until they pay for what they have done." He knew that look, that tone. It was the one she used when she was about to exact her own form of justice, swift and merciless. And while you loved her fiercely, this side of her, this relentless need for retribution, always left you feeling conflicted. "Arlecchino, I don't want you to do anything rash. I'm okay. I just want us to move past this." She looked at you, her expression hardening. "And I want them to understand the consequences of their actions. They need to learn that there are repercussions for harming what's mine." You couldn't deny the thrill that ran through you at her possessive words. But still, "Please," you pleaded, your voice barely above a whisper. "Don't let this consume you. We can handle this together, without much bloodshed." Her gaze softened ever so slightly. "I won't allow anyone to think they can harm you and walk away unscathed. But I promise, I'll be careful, and I will not do anything that will bring trouble to us." You wanted to argue, to convince her to let it go. But you knew that once Arlecchino had made up her mind, there was little you could do to change it. Instead, you leaned into her, pressing a soft kiss to her lips, a silent plea for her to return to you safely, to not lose herself in the darkness that always threatened to consume her. She kissed you back, a tender contrast to the fierce determination you could feel radiating from her. When she pulled away, she rested her forehead against yours, her breath warm against your skin. I love you. I love you too. I really do, Arlecchino. The next few days were tense, the atmosphere in your shared home heavy with unspoken words and lingering worry. She was often out, her presence in the room like a ghost. There, but not really there. When she was home, she was quiet, her mind clearly occupied, with thoughts she did not share. But every time she returned, she would hold you close. And you tried to push the anxiety aside. You trusted her, knew she was more than capable of handling herself, but you were more scared of what she was going to do. It was not until the third night that she returned late. You were sitting by the window, waiting for her, your heart aching with a mix of relief and trepidation when you heard the door creak open. Arlecchino. She appeared in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the pale light. For a moment you couldn't read her expression, but as she stepped closer, the shadows fell away, revealing the faint traces of exhaustion etched into her features, and the blood that was splattered onto her clothes. You rushed to her, looking her over, before hesitantly wrapping your arms around her waist. You're back, he whispered, and she held you close. I am. And are you okay? Is this yours? No, it's not. And I'm fine. It's done. They won't bother you again. There was a finality to her words that sent a shiver down your spine, but you did not press for details. Part of you did not want to know what she'd done, did not want to imagine the blood, more than you already saw, that might have been spelled in your name. Instead, you focused on the fact that she was here, with you, and safe. Thank you. She cupped your face in her hands, her thumbs brushing away the tears you hadn't realized were falling. I did what I had to do. For you. For us. You nodded, leaning into her touch, and you clung to her, your heart aching with a mixture of love and fear. Arlecchino was a force to be reckoned with, a storm that could not be tamed, but she was also your safe harbor, the one person who would always make you feel protected and cherished.